there would clearly need to be the transfer of nuclear technologies that Iran still has in their possession so they can be verifiably destroyed.
Stability in the Middle East is the priority, according to the Prime Minister, following the American decision to strike on Iran's nuclear facilities yesterday morning. Sir Keir Starmer has called on Iran to return to negotiations and diplomacy. Well, let's speak to the Armed Forces Minister, Luke Pollard, who joins us now. Good morning.
Morning, Kate.
Donald Trump overnight has advocated regime change in Iran. He's tweeted, "Make Iran great again." Does the UK support that position?
What we have been making very clear over the past few days is it's now imperative that Iran returns to the negotiating table to de-escalate the situation, to ensure that there is a diplomatic solution that removes their nuclear program, that reduces the risk of escalation in the region, and make sure that we can conclude this via a diplomatic route. That has been the focus of the Prime Minister's work. That was the spirit of the statement from the Prime Minister, the German Chancellor and the French President in our joint statement yesterday, and is the reason why we're using all the diplomatic channels available to us internationally to apply pressure on Tehran and the regime there to understand that escalation is in no one's interest, and that to secure a diplomatic solution, we need Iran to return to the negotiating table, and to do so to negotiate in good faith, something they have not been doing in recent months.
OK, so we don't, as a government in this country, support regime change, as Donald Trump suggests that he does. Do we support the American strikes?
Well, the US have taken the action that they felt necessary was to alleviate the situation. Our focus has always been to de-escalate the situation, to get Iran to return to the negotiating table. That's where our focus has been.
I understand that. I'm asking a slightly different question. I understand our position on it, but America changed the game with its strikes. Do we support those strikes?
That was a decision that the US has taken. Our focus has been on the diplomatic effort that is necessary to get to a lasting peace here. That's why that's been the focus of the Prime Minister's actions over the last few days. It's the reason why the Defence Secretary, myself, the Foreign Secretary and the Minister for the Middle East have been engaging in diplomatic activity in the region, because we need to make sure that there is a route to a lasting peace here. The way to do that is with a diplomatic solution that brings Iran back to the negotiating table. OK,
so we don't support strikes, we support diplomacy. So that's very clear in your answer. You also talk about the need to ensure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon ever. What about the enriched uranium? We know that Iran has it. There is a suggestion that it has hidden it and that these strikes don't change that. Should they now hand it over?
Well, the Iranian nuclear weapons program has been seeking to enrich uranium far beyond the levels that would be necessary for a civilian nuclear program. We roughly think that they were at 60% enrichment, and that is just shy of the level of enrichment that would be necessary for use in a nuclear weapon. It's for that reason that the Americans have taken action that they felt necessary to alleviate the situation. The UK was not involved with those strikes. But the only way to get to that lasting peace is now Iran possesses the knowledge about how to create a nuclear weapon and how to enrich uranium. The only solution there is a diplomatic one that restrains Iran's ability to do so, that de-escalates the situation, and that puts Iran on a path that means that they won't be developing nuclear weapons, being a threat.
But it's not just about the knowledge, though, is it? I'm asking again a different question. We know that Iran already has enriched uranium. You've stated it yourself there. We know that these attacks haven't necessarily dealt with that enriched uranium. In fact, we believe that it hasn't. JD Vance in America suggests that that is the American next step, to get Iran to hand that enriched uranium over. Does the UK support and today call for Iran to hand it over?
As part of any diplomatic solution to this, there would clearly need to be the transfer of nuclear technologies that Iran still has in their possession so they can be verifiably destroyed. What we need to understand is where the Iranian nuclear facilities, where the enriched uranium currently is, in what situation are they under the control of the Iranian regime, or under a pile of rubble that needs to be dealt with in other ways. But clearly, having possession of any any nuclear material or nuclear technologies means that Iran continues to pose a risk. That's why a diplomatic solution that sees them hand over that resource and diplomatically locks them out of developing weapons again in the future is essential.
Yeah. If Iran seeks to close the Strait of Hormuz, which is a suggestion that may well be the next step, would UK assets in the region help to reopen it, help to protect? We have our own sort of assets in that region that may need protecting. Will we potentially be involved in that?
Well, it's difficult for me to speculate on future action, but what I can say is there's an international capacity that exists in the Middle East to ensure that there is action taken against any mine threat. The Straits of Hormuz are a vital international maritime pinch point. Billions of pounds worth of trade goes via the Straits of Hormuz every week. And for that reason, the international community, the UK and our allies, keep capacities in the area to deal with the mine threats. That's not just the ones that may be posed by Iran, but that's also the historic mine threats that comes from previous wars in the area. So that's why keeping that sea lane open is not only vital for our national security, it's vital for our economic security as well.
Yeah. Iran is holding the family of a UK-based Iranian journalist and urging that UK-based Iranian journalist to quit their job. What is the UK government able to do to help in this situation? Are we offering more support for Iranian nationals in this country, especially those with public profiles, for example?
Well, we know that it's been a tactic of the Iranian regime for quite some time to effectively kidnap or arrest on trumped-up charges UK nationals with the intention of effectively using them as political leverage. As part of that ongoing campaign by the Iranian regime, colleagues across government provide support to the families of those affected. We've seen that most recently in some very high-profile cases. But that is yet another tactic of this despotic regime that seeks to undermine the international rules-based order. Decent regimes do not use political prisoners in that way, do not arrest people and then use them for political leverage. That is a very concerning development, but it's one that I'm afraid we've seen from the Iranian regime for quite some time now.
Will the UK government then prescribe the IRGC?
Well, you'll know that it's a long-standing position of not just this government but previous ones that we don't comment on prescription. But
well, that's not. Forgive me, that's not correct, because you commented extensively about the prescription of Palestinian action over the last 24, 48 hours.
Well, I mean, the process of prescription is not one that I can comment on. But what I can say is that we have already taken action against senior IRGC leaders, sanctioning them. We have added the IRGC to the highest tier under the Foreign Interference Registration Scheme that puts extra focus and effort to assess and mitigate and disrupt their malign activities in the United Kingdom. We'll continue to keep the prescription process under review, and you'll appreciate that. That's not one that I can comment on publicly.
Why would we not prescribe them, given everything that you've said about Iran, about what Iran's been doing, about how it's disrespected the nuclear agreements that it had made previously? Why would we not prescribe the IRGC?
Well, that's a matter that you appreciate I can't comment on, but we have already, as I just said, taken action against their senior leaders and also added them to the highest tier of our foreign interference register. These are actions that were taken by this government. We're serious about restricting the ability of the Iranian regime to cause trouble in the United Kingdom and threaten our allies. But ultimately, the way that we get to a solution here is by diplomatic means. It is by getting Iran to return to the table and to negotiate in good faith. And I hope that is their next step.
Have you had a guarantee from Israel that they will do the same?
So we continue to call for de-escalation from all partners and for there to be a peaceful solution. The UK has not been involved in the Israeli strikes against Iran, but ultimately this crisis will be resolved by diplomatic means. It's for that reason that the Prime Minister has made that a priority. Luke Pollard, thank you for your time this morning. Thank you. That was the Armed Forces Minister there.
Wasn't willing to say that the government supported the strikes. There's another part of the world which has a Labour government, Australia. And Albanese overnight, he's the Prime Minister of Australia, said the world has long agreed that Iran cannot be allowed to get a nuclear weapon, and we support action to prevent that. So very similar probably politically to Keir Starmer, but willing to support Americans. There's a danger we're kind of neither Arthur nor Martha with this, I think.
I love that turn of phrase.
Because we're basically saying that we're calling for de-escalation and we want Iran to return to the table. But the action so far has been led by Israel and then America, actually, in all of this. And either we're supporting what they're doing or we're not. And we're not quite willing to say we're supporting them, but we're not quite willing to say that they've done the wrong thing. So where are we?
Look, I think what's clear there is that when I asked whether the UK government supports regime change, and Luke Pollard did not answer the question, but then I said, well, you don't support it. He didn't contradict that. And nor did he contradict it when I said, it sounds like you don't support the strikes either. So I think we can take it from that the UK government does not support military action, would not have sought that as the route. And that was the direction of travel from Keir Starmer. The big question is now, what does the UK government do next? And I think from what you heard from Luke Pollard at the end, urging diplomatic means is one thing, but there is no guarantee from Israel that Israel is seeking to pursue that or believes that this is over. And at the same time, you have others, including Ben Wallace, saying we need to be certain that Iran does not have the capability to build these nuclear weapons. And Luke Pollard, they're very uncertain around the idea about the enriched uranium and how the global community can ensure that is no longer something Iran can use to its advantage. And
it's also it's further than Israel not guaranteeing that. Both now Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu have uttered the phrase regime change. They've both used the phrase regime change. So where do they want this to go? Only the fact that Donald Trump has promised not to get entangled in foreign wars might make you think he just wants to drop a big bomb and run. But we don't know what he'll do next. And either you think Britain is right to be outside of this looking on, calling for de-escalation, or you feel we should be inside a part of the process trying to make the world safe. Maybe the lessons of the past are that we can't do that anymore. America is the great unilateralist power in the world. We're on the sidelines talking futilely about de-escalation. We weren't consulted. They haven't used our air bases. Maybe this is one we're just sitting out.